Okay, so I'm just going to kind of walk through several of these examples in each section. Then I'm going to leave a few for you to try yourself, and I'll post the key also so you can check your answers when you get done. Make sure you understand how I've solved every one of these, because when you go to do your quiz at the end, you're only going to have one chance. So make sure you're comfortable with all of these things, because the grade on the quiz is the grade that will basically like replace, if it's better, your unit test for that unit. Okay, so you're trying to show me that you understand this information now, even though maybe you didn't understand it when you took the quiz. Okay, or the original test. So I'm just going to kind of go through a few. So we're going to start with scientific notation. Remember, scientific notation, I'm basically just moving my decimal to make the number more comfortable to write or easy to read. So like, for example, if I'm comparing like this number 1 and number 5, it's a lot easier to see the number 5 than it is to see this number 1, which is a really long number. Okay, so when I'm turning anything into scientific notation, I'm always trying to move my decimal. Like if I have a list of numbers here, like if my X's are all numbers, I always want my decimal to be right here, right after that first digit. Okay, so that's my goal. I'm always trying to move it that way. Okay, if I'm looking at a big number, so like number 1 is a big number, okay, then my exponent that I'm putting up here in the box is going to be a positive number. Okay, if I'm looking at a small number, so let's say if number, and I'm going to say greater than 0, okay, then my exponent's going to be positive. If my number is less than 0, my exponent that I'm putting in this box is going to be a negative number. Okay, and I'll show you what I mean. So let's look at number 1. Okay, remember I need my decimal to go right after that first 3. So I'm going to move it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places to right there. Okay, 5 places. So my new number is 3.3876745 times 10. I moved it 5 places, so my exponent is going to be a 5. And since I'm looking at a number, my number here is bigger than 0. It's a big number. My exponent is going to be positive, so I'm going to leave it just like a positive 5. Okay, let's look at number 3. Okay, I want my decimal to be right after that first number 5, right? That's how it's going to get me this number with one digit in front of the decimal. So I'm going to move it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places to get it right there. Okay, so my number 5 point, okay, there's my decimal, 654 times 10. I moved it 5 places, so my exponent is going to be the number 5. But since this number right here is less than 0, it's a little number, it's a decimal, my exponent is going to have this negative sign with it. Okay, and you can kind of compare number 1 and number 2. Well, if this number has a positive number, right, I can tell they look different. This one down here, number 3, is negative, okay, because it's a little bitty number. Okay, so now what I want you to do is try to do number 2 and number 4 by yourself. Okay, and then you can check the key when you get done. For number 5, let's look at number 5. This time we're just going backwards. We're going to standard notation. Okay, so everything is basically the same. All the same rules apply. Just if I have a number 4, right, that means I'm going to move my decimal 4 places. And since it's positive, I want to make sure I'm moving it in the direction that's going to give me a big number. So in this case, I'm going to be moving it towards the right. Okay, so basically what this is saying, okay, I'm going to rewrite my number here so I can show you how I'm moving the decimal. I'm going to move it 4 places. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's where my new decimal is going to be. Okay, and then I treat my little baskets like little Easter baskets. They need a little Easter egg in them. Okay, so I'm going to put some zeros. So my new number, right, is 35400, and then I can go back and insert my comma where I need to. 35,400. Okay, let's look at number 8. Okay, so I'm gonna just rewrite it so I can show you how I'm moving my decimal. Okay, and actually I'm gonna move it over just a little bit so I have plenty of room. 3.14. Okay, so I have this number here, my exponent, -5. That means I'm going to move it 5 spaces, but since it's negative, I want to make sure I'm moving it in the direction it's going to make a little number. So that's going to be towards the left. So 5 places. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's my new decimal. And remember, I have to fill in all my spaces with zeros, all my little baskets with my little goose eggs. Okay, so my new number, I'm just rewriting it without all the random lines and squiggles in there. Okay, remember, once I moved my decimal, this decimal's no longer there anymore. So I'm just writing 314. Okay, same thing here. I've moved this decimal. It is not there anymore. A number cannot have 2 decimals. Okay, so now try number 6 and 7. Okay, and then check yourself with the key. For the calculations, it's basically just type it into your calculator. Notice I have parentheses around these. Okay, so I want to make sure when I'm using scientific notation that I'm using parentheses on my calculator. Okay, because I have multiple operations in here. I have a times here, a times here, and a times here. Okay, so I want to make sure that everything's getting multiplied correctly. Here, I have a times, a divide, and a times. So I want to make sure that I'm using my parentheses in my calculator. Whoop, there's a parentheses missing there. Parentheses. Okay, I want to make sure I'm using my parentheses so that these operations are being done in order. Okay, in math, you probably learned your order of operations are very important. So I want to make sure that I'm multiplying the correct things and I'm dividing the correct things. Okay, same thing here. Since I'm multiplying and I'm adding, I want to make sure I'm using my parentheses so it's typing into my calculator correctly. Okay, and again, once you've done these, check the key. Okay, I'll post the answers. Make sure you're getting the same answer as me before you go and take the actual test. Okay, the Google form quiz. All right, dimensional analysis. So let's look at this real quick. This is like our train tracks, okay, that we've been doing for a while now. So maybe this will make a little more sense now that we've kind of been doing it for a little while. Same rules apply. I'm always going to start with what I'm given. So I'm given 4.5 gallons, okay, and I'm trying to turn it into pints. So what do I know has to be down here? Okay, I know it has to be gallons because I need these to cancel out. Okay, so I know I have to have gallons down here. So where am I going to find the number that goes in front of this gallons? I'm going to get it from my conversion factor. Okay, so 1 gallon is equal to 8 pints. Okay, so my gallons have canceled out. In order to solve this, I'm just going to multiply the top, remember, and then I'll divide by the bottom. So 4.5 times 8 divided by 1 is just 36 pints. Okay, because my gallons have canceled out. All right, let's do number 2 because it's a little longer. Okay, so remember, I'm just going to start setting up my train tracks. I'm always going to start with what I'm given, 25.0 miles, and I want to turn it into kilometers. Okay, so I know that because I have miles up here, I have to have miles down here. Okay, so I'm going to look at my conversions. Where do I have miles? Which conversion? This one right here, right? So it's going to be 1 mile is equal to 5,280 feet. Okay, remember, this is like the cards that we use at the very beginning of the year where you kind of, sometimes you had to flip them upside down or flip them different ways because all you were really trying to get was just get these to cancel out, okay? And your top and bottom always equal. So now I've got feet, but I'm trying to get to kilometers, okay? So what needs to go down at the bottom, right? I know I'm gonna have to have feet, okay? And I don't guess I didn't write it on here. I'll have to go back and add that. 1 foot equals 12 inches. Okay, so my foot, 12 inches. So my feet cancel. Now I've got inches. It's not where I need to go, right? I got to go to kilometers. I got to keep going. But oh, look, here's a conversion with inches. Okay, so 1 inch is 2.54 centimeters. Okay, and then one other conversion I left out. 1 kilometer is equal to 10,000 centimeters. Okay, so I'm gonna put my centimeters down on the bottom because that's what I need to do. And then my kilometers on the top. So my inches have canceled, my centimeters have canceled. I'm left with kilometers. Okay, so this was kind of a long one, but you can see that every time I know what I want to put at the bottom because I'm just trying to cancel out those things that are similar. Feet, feet, inch, inch, centimeter, centimeter. Okay, so now I'm just going to multiply the top, divide by the bottom. 25 times 5280 times 12 times 2.54 times 1 divided by 111 and then my 10,000. Whoop. Okay, so my answer is going to be 402 kilometers. Okay. I'll do one more. I'll do number 3 with you, and then I'll let you do number 4 by yourself. Okay. If you want to pause it here and try to do number 3 and 4 by yourself first, I suggest doing that. Okay. But I want you to at least kind of see how you can set it up in case you mess up or in case you need to watch some other ones. Okay. So, here we go. Faucet drips at the rate of 3.5 milliliters. So I always have to start with my, 3.5 milliliters, okay? And we're gonna make this a little easier. Per day, all right? Milliliters per day. So now I wanna know, well, how many gallons is this per day, okay? So I have milliliters. I need to get my milliliters into liters so I can convert it to gallons. There's 1,000 milliliters in 1 liter, okay? So what do I know has to be on the bottom? I have milliliters. Means I need milliliters now down on the bottom. So that's going to be where I use my 1,000 and then my 1 liter, okay, because they're equal to each other. My milliliters have canceled now. Okay, so now I can go from liters to gallons, okay, using this conversion factor. So what's going to go on the bottom? I know liters has to go on the bottom, okay, and then I can do my gallons on the top. So what number goes in front of liters? 3.79 and then 1 gallon. Okay, so my liters have canceled. I'm left with gallons. So I'm just going to multiply the top, divide by the bottom. Divided by 3.79, divided by 1,000. And it's a teeny tiny number, 0.0009 gallons per day. Okay, and I'll go back. I'm going to update all these that I don't have these written in, just kind of to refresh your memory. I'll update that on your copy. All right, so I'll work through number 4 also, but like I said, I would suggest pausing the video, try it first, and then watch what I do because you're going to have to do some of these on your own on the quiz. So I want you to have some practice doing this yourself too. Okay, so setting it up, draw my line. Starting with 234 miles. Okay, so I got to go to meters. So I'm going to look here. Where's my conversion with miles? Here it is. I know my miles has to go on the bottom because that's what's up on the top. I want it to cancel out. There's a 1 mile is 1760 yards. So my miles cancel. Now I need yards on the bottom because I've got yards on the top. Yards. I'm looking at my conversion. 1.094 yards is the same thing as 1 meter. Okay, so my yards have canceled. I'm left with meter, which is what I want. So now I can just multiply the top. 234, 1760, divide by the bottom. 376,453 meters. Okay, so that's my answer for that one. All right, last but not least, significant figures. Okay, so like I said, I'll just go through a few practice, leave you a few to practice for yourself. You'll have to do some of these on your own on the quiz anyways. Okay, so remember, significant figures, we get that because it's, the reason they're important is because it's telling us how good of an instrument we have, right? If my instrument can only measure to 1, right, that's not very helpful. If my instrument can measure all the way to 1,000, let's say milliliters, okay, that's a lot better. We want this instrument, right? It has more significant figures than this one right here. Okay, so let's look at A first. Okay, remember every number 1 through 9. So I'll write some rules over here. 1 through 9, always significant. Okay, so 3, 4, 6, those are all 1 through 9. They're all significant, so that means that number has 3. Okay, when I'm looking at zeros, remember, if we're looking at our, we can think about Pacific or Atlantic. Okay, so my Pacific is over here. If it's present, I'm going to start counting from this way. If I have a decimal, maybe I should write decimal present. Okay, I'm going to start counting this direction, going towards the right. Okay, if my decimal is absent, like my Atlantic Ocean, okay, I'm going to go this way because the Atlantic is on the right side of the United States. So I'm going to start counting from that right side. Okay, so for B, okay, I have some zeros, but my decimal is absent. So that means I'm going to start counting going this direction. Okay, I can't start counting until I get to an actual number. So I'm skipping right over those zeros. I'm going to count the 2 and the 4. So that means there's 2 significant figures right there. Okay. For C, right, there's a decimal that's present. That means I'm going to count this direction. Okay. I can't start counting until I get to an actual number. So I'm skipping all these zeros. I'm going to count the 8 and the 9. So there's 2. Okay. For D, I'm always, when I'm looking at scientific notation, I'm just looking at this number right here. I'm not worried about what's over here. So how many? 7 and an 8, those are all between 1 and 9, so there's just 2. Okay. For E, my decimal is present. I'm going to start counting this direction. Okay, so as soon as I get to a number, 6, now I'm going to count until I get to the very end. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 significant figures. Okay, for F, my decimal is present. Going this way. Can't start counting until I get to an actual number. Skipping those first 3 zeros, I'll start counting at 4, 5. And then even though these are zeros, because I started counting, I have to keep counting till I get to the very end. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. Okay. I'll add a few more practice in for you on your sheet. Okay, when we do calculations, we have some rules. Okay, if we're multiplying or dividing, our answer is always going to have the least sig fig. Okay, if we're adding or subtracting, we're going to the least decimal place. Okay, so let me show you what I mean. So for A, okay, I'm looking at this number right here. There's 3 sig figs. All those numbers are between 1 through 9. I count all of them. 1, 2, 3. Here, okay, by zeros are in between significant numbers, so it doesn't really matter which way I start counting. There's always going to be, I'm counting those. So if I want to think of it like the present, decimal's present, I start from the left side, start counting at 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 significant digits. Okay, so when I multiply this out in my calculator, 54.1 times 10.03, I get 542.623. Okay, but my answer can only have the least number. So I have to round my answer to 3 sig figs. Okay, so where is that going to be? So 1, 2, 3, I'm going to have to stop my number right here, right? So what is my 6 going to round my 2? Rounds it up, so my final answer is 543. Okay, For B, all right, it's adding. So let me set it up right over here. The reason we go to the least decimal place is kind of like because when you add up, remember when you were learning to add and you line up your decimal, you line up all your place values. Okay, so we get 8, 7, and then 15. Okay, and then my decimal ends up being right there. I just bring my decimal down. Okay, so I'm going to look, my answer can only round to the number with the fewest number of decimal places. 90 has no decimal places at all, so that means my answer cannot have a decimal place at all either. Okay, so 150, this 8 actually rounds my 7 up to an 8, so my answer is 158. Okay, so this was 158. All right, so C, this has 3 places, this has 2 places, 1 place, so that means my answer can only have 1 place. So when I type it in my calculator, 63.786 plus 20.04 plus 30.01, I get 113.8. The next number is a 3. Okay, but I can't have that number. I have to stop at the 8 right here. So this is my answer, 113.8. Okay, so again, I'll post a key for these last 3, but I want you to try them yourself. Okay, make sure you're looking at, like here, we have some order of operations. We have to add this first before we multiply. Okay, same thing here. We're adding this first before we divide. So just keep that in mind with your rules, right? So here, when I add this, which number has the fewest decimal places? The 20. So that means that my answer when I add these are going to be a whole number. 34.5 plus 20, my answer is just going to be 50. It'll round to 55, okay, because I can't have that decimal. It has to be a whole number, okay? So then I'll use the 55 times the 54.3. Okay, so like I said, I'll go back, I'll post the key. I'll post this basically the same page. I'll just go in and add the other answers that we've missed. And then, like I said, I'll add a few more here on this significant figures just to give you a few more practice if you need to before you take the actual